Hello and welcome to our 16th and final session of the Catechumenate Period of the RCIA. Our topic is social justice. Let us begin. So let us begin with the parable of the rich man and Lazarus. There was a rich man who dressed in purple garments and fine linen and dined sumptuously each day. And lying at his door was a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who would gladly have eaten his fill of the scraps that fell from the rich man's table. Even dogs used to come and lick his sores. When the poor man died, he was carried away by angels to the bosom of Abraham. The rich man also died and was buried. And from the netherworld, where he was in torment, he raised his eyes and saw Abraham far off and Lazarus at his side. He cried out, "Father Abraham, have pity on me. Send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am suffering torment in these flames." Abraham replied, "My child, remember that you received what was good during your lifetime, while Lazarus likewise received what was bad. But now he is comforted here, whereas you are tormented. Moreover, between us and you, a great chasm is established to prevent anyone from crossing who might wish to go from our side to yours and from your side to ours." He said, "Then I beg you, Father, send him to my father's house. For I have 5 brothers, so that he may warn them, lest they too come to this place of torment." But Abraham replied, "They have Moses and the prophets. Let them listen to them." He said, "Oh no, Father Abraham, but if someone from the dead goes to them, they will repent." Then Abraham said, "If they will not listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded if someone should rise from the dead." So why did the rich man ignore Lazarus? I invite you at this time to either pause the video or to think about your response to this. Just remember, there are different forms of poverty. People may lack friends. They might lack social standing or family stability. Maybe they are experiencing mental health or love all experience of poverty. I invite you to think about some examples of injustice or oppression and social inequality in our world today. These might exist in small or large areas, maybe in our schools, our workplaces, and other countries. And I must emphasize that while we may feel powerless to fix the social injustices in the world, we have a great power to affect social change within our families, our churches, and our neighborhoods. Living justly is a way of life. It's a habit we must begin early and practice daily. As we hear in this quote from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, justice is the moral virtue that consists in our constant and firm will to give our due to God and neighbor. The just person, often mentioned in the sacred scriptures, is distinguished by habitual right thinking and uprightness of conduct toward one's neighbor. I want to stress the word habitual. A truly just person is consistent in attitudes and behavior. I invite you now, if you'd like, to go ahead and pause the video after I have completed speaking, but to discuss the statement, social responsibility begins with an attitude of respect for and generosity toward all peoples of the world. How are human dignity and social justice interconnected? In the synagogue in Nazareth, Jesus read, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring glad tidings to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, and to proclaim a year acceptable to the Lord." After he had rolled up the scroll and handed it back to the attendant, he told those listening, "Today this scripture passage is fulfilled in your hearing." How might this be fulfilled in our hearing? In telling the story that we heard at the beginning of our session, the story of the rich man and Lazarus, Jesus isn't condemning the rich man because he was rich. The rich man's sin is that he closed his eyes to the suffering surrounding him. Jesus sends us a powerful message. We are called to actively help the vulnerable, the poor, and the forgotten. St. Ambrose told us, "Why do you reject one who has the same rights over nature as you? It is not from your own goods that you give to the beggar. It is a portion of his own which you are restoring to him." So following the example of Christ, the Church calls us to a preferential option or love for the poor. Our institutions, our decisions, our actions should be guided by these 4 priorities, according to the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, found in the pastoral letter of economic justice for all. It begins with fulfillment of the basic needs of the poor. Secondly, increase the active participation of the poor and those on society's margins. Thirdly, greater investment of wealth and talent directed at benefiting the poor. And finally, an evaluation on policies in light of their impact on family life. As Jesus said, "Amen, I say to you, whatever you did for one of these least brethren of mine, you did for me. What you did not do for one of these least, you did not do for me." I'd like to focus a little bit on the purpose and the meaning of work, according to the Catechism of the Catholic Church. The primordial value of labor stems from man himself, its author and beneficiary. Work is for man, not man for work. Everyone should be able to draw from work the meaning of providing for his life and that of his family, and of serving the human community. I'd just like to clarify here, work can be defined broadly to include volunteer and domestic as well as professional pursuits. Work and workers have value far beyond their productivity or revenue generating capacity. I invite you now to discuss how work can be a venue for experiencing human dignity. I encourage you to reflect on how your work contributes to society and how it helps you develop as a person. And to continue on those reflection questions, here is a little bit more to think about. How does your work contribute to society and how it helps you develop as a person, as I mentioned before? How can work be a venue for experiencing human dignity? How has work given you purpose and structure in your life? How does unemployment or underemployment emotionally as well as financially affect you? I'd like to take this time to remind all of you of the strides in workers' rights, especially what's mentioned by St. John Paul II's encyclical, Centesimus Annus. First, fair and living wages. Secondly, safe and sanitary working conditions. Third, limitation of working hours. And finally, trade unions and restrictions on child labor. We're going to now go through the principles of Catholic social teaching. All Catholic social teaching grows out of the conviction that every person, as a beloved creation of God, has inherent value and dignity. These 7 principles of Catholic social teaching guide our care for the needs and rights of all God's people. Life and dignity of the human person. All life must be protected from natural conception to natural death, and all forms of discrimination must end. Call to family, community, and participation. Traditional marriage and family life are the central social institutions and must be strengthened and supported. Rights and responsibilities. All people should have access to basic necessities of food, clothing, and shelter, as well as rest, medical care, and education. Preferential love for the poor and the vulnerable. The needs of the poor and vulnerable come first and deserve our preferential response when we're in a position to help. The dignity of work and rights of workers. All people have the right to employment with adequate pay and decent working conditions. Solidarity. We are one human family and must work for peace and justice for every person. Care for God's creation. We are called to protect human life and the world God has given us. The well-being of society is a concern for the Church and must be our concern as well. We can participate in acts of social justice by sharing our goods. Sharing what we have reduces the disparity between rich and poor. Secondly, serving others. Jesus said, "Whoever wishes to be great must first become a servant." We can volunteer to perform charitable works and acts of service. And finally, standing up for justice. We can select a social cause and take action to raise awareness of the need for change. As we conclude our time together, I would like to read from Matthew's Gospel regarding the judgment of the nations. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit upon his glorious throne, and all the nations will be assembled before him, and he will separate them one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will place the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father. Inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink, a stranger and you welcomed me, naked and you clothed me, ill and you cared for me, in prison and you visited me. Then the righteous will answer him and say, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? When did we see you ill or in prison and visit you? And the king will say to them in reply, Amen, I say to you, whatever you did for one of these least brothers of mine, you did for me. Then he will say to those on his left, Depart from me, you accursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. A stranger, and you gave me no welcome. Naked, and you gave me no clothing. Ill and in prison, and you did not care for me. Then they will answer and say, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or ill, or in prison, and not minister to your needs? He will answer them, Amen, I say to you, what you did not do for one of these least ones, you did not do for me. And these will go off to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life. That is a very sobering gospel. And I think it's time for us to reflect on these questions. How is God calling me to share my possessions with the needy? How is God calling me to serve others through charitable acts and acts of service? How is God calling me to stand up for justice? Who are the least ones crying for my attention today? How will I respond? I want to thank you for taking the time to be with me in this presentation on social justice. I look forward as we begin our next period of the RCIA program, that of the period of enlightenment and purification. God bless you.